she said out loud. Her throat was dry, and her voice sounded raspy as it echoed unpleasantly inside her head. Her tongue felt as if it needed a shave. I'm in hell, in a circle from Dante's Inferno with a very low number, she thought, and she began to shiver. Everything about the moment was terrifying, but it was so horrible and so unexpected she couldn't orient herself to it. Her joints were stiff and painful. She ached all over. She doubted that she could press 100 pounds right now. Her head felt huge, bloated like aging fruit, and it hurt. But she could vividly remember the attacker. He was tall, maybe 6'2", youngish, extremely powerful, articulate. The images were hazy, but she was absolutely certain they were true. She remembered something else about the monstrous attack in her apartment. He'd used a stun gun, or something like it, to immobilize her. He'd also used chloroform, or maybe it was halothane. That could account for her bruising headache. The lights had purposely been left on in the room. She noticed they were coming from modern-looking dimmers built into the ceiling. The ceiling was low, possibly under 7 feet. The room looked as if it had been recently built or remodeled. It was actually decorated tastefully, the way she might have done her own apartment if she had the money and time. A real brass bed, antique white dresser with brass handles, a dressing table with a silver brush comb mirror. There were colorful scarves tied on the bedposts, just the way she did them at home. That struck her as strange, very odd. There were no windows in the room. The only way out appeared to be through a heavy wooden door. Nice decor, Kate muttered softly. Early psycho. No, it's late psycho. The door to a small closet was open halfway, and she could see inside. What she saw made her feel physically ill. He'd brought her clothes to this horrible place, this bizarre prison cell. All of her clothes were here. Using her remaining strength, Kate McTiernan forced herself to sit upright in the bed. The effort made her heart race, and the pounding in her chest frightened her. Her arms and legs felt as if heavy weights were tied to them. She concentrated hard, trying to focus her eyes on the incredible scene. She continued to stare into the closet. Those weren't actually her clothes, she realized. He'd gone out and bought clothes just like hers, exactly to her taste and style. The clothes displayed in the closet were brand new. She could see some of the store tags dangling from the blouses and skirts. The Limited, the Gap in Chapel Hill, stores she actually shopped in herself. Her eyes darted to the top of the antique white dresser across the room. Her perfume was there, too. Obsession, Safari, Opium. He'd bought all of it for her, hadn't he? Next to the bed was a copy of All the Pretty Horses, the same book she had bought on Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. He knows everything about me. Chapter 26. Dr. Kate McTiernan slept, awoke, slept some more. She made a joke of it, called herself Lazy Bones. She never slept in, not since before med school anyway. She was beginning to feel more clear-headed and alert, more in command of herself, except that she had lost track of time. She didn't know if it was morning, noon, or night, or even which day it was. The man, whoever the bastard was, had been inside the mysterious, despicable room while she slept. The thought made her physically ill. There was a note propped on the bedside table where she was sure to see it. The note was handwritten. Dear Dr. Kate, it said. Her hands were trembling as she read her own name. I wanted you to read this so that you understand me better and also the rules of the house. This is probably the most important letter you'll ever receive, so read it carefully, and please take it very seriously. No, I am not crazy or out of control. Actually, I'm quite the opposite. Apply your obviously high intelligence to the concept that I'm relatively sane and that I know exactly what I want. Most people don't know what they want. Do you, Kate? We'll talk about that later. It's a subject worthy of much lively and interesting discussion. Do you know what you want? Are you getting it? Why not? For the good of society? Whose society? Whose life are we living, anyway? I won't pretend that you are happy to be here, so no false-sounding welcomes. no cellophaned basket of fresh fruit and champagne. As you will soon see, or have already, I have tried to make your stay as comfortable as possible, which brings up an important point, perhaps the most important point of this first attempt at communication between us. Your stay will be temporary. You will leave if, big if, you listen to what I tell you. So listen carefully, Kate. Are you listening now? Please listen, Kate. Chase away the justifiable anger and the white noise in your head. I am not crazy or out of control. That's the whole point. I am in control. See the distinction? Of course you do. I know how very bright you are, National Merit Scholar and all that. It is important that you know how special you are to me. That's why you are completely safe here. It is also why you'll leave, eventually. I picked you from thousands and thousands of women at my disposal, so to speak. I know you're saying, lucky me. I know how funny and cynical you can be. I even know that laughter has gotten you through difficult times. I'm beginning to know you better than anyone has ever known you. Almost as well as you know yourself, Kate. Now for the bad parts. And, Kate, these next points are as important as any of the good news I've stated above. These are the house rules, and they are to be strictly observed. 1. The most important rule. You must never try to escape, or you will be executed within hours, however painful that would be for both of us. Believe me, there is precedent for this. There can be no reprieve following an escape attempt. 2. Just for you, Kate, a special rule. You must never try to use your karate skills on me. I almost brought your gi, your crisp white karate suit, but why encourage you to temptation? 3. You must never call out for help. I'll know if you do, and you will be punished with facial and genital disfigurement. You want to know more? You want to know everything at once. But it doesn't work that way. Don't bother trying to figure out where you are. You won't guess, and will only give yourself an unnecessary headache. That's all for now. I have given you more than enough to think about. You are totally safe here. I love you more than you can imagine. I can't wait for us to talk. Really talk. Casanova. And you are hopelessly out of your mind, Kate McTiernan thought as she paced the 11-by-15-foot room. Her claustrophobic prison, her hell on this earth. Her body felt as if it were floating, as if warm, viscous fluid were flowing over her. She wondered if she'd suffered a head injury during the attack. She had only one thought: how to escape. She began to analyze her situation in every possible way. She reversed the conventional assumptions and broke down each to its component parts. There was a single, double-locked, thick wooden door. There was no way out other than through that door. No. That was the conventional assumption. There had to be another way. She remembered a problem solution puzzle from some heretofore useless undergrad logics course she had taken. It began with 10 matchsticks arranged as Roman numerals in a math equation 11 plus 1 equals x, xi plus I equals x. The problem was how to correct the equation without touching any of the matches, without adding new matches, without taking away any matches. No easy way out, no apparent solution. The problem had been unsolvable to many students, but she had figured it out relatively quickly. A solution was there where none seemed to be. She solved it by reversing the conventional assumptions. She turned the page upside down. 10 equals 1 plus 9. X equals I plus IX. But she couldn't turn this prison room upside down, or could she? Kate McTiernan examined every single floorboard and each 2x4 on the wall. The wood smelled new. Maybe he was a builder, a contractor, or perhaps an architect. No way out. No apparent solution. She wouldn't accept that answer. She thought about seducing him, if she could force herself to do it. No, he was too clever. He would know. Worse than that, she would know. There had to be a way. She would find it. Kate stared down at the note on the bedside table. You must never try to escape, or you will be executed within hours. Chapter 27. The following afternoon I visited the Sarah Duke Gardens, the place where Naomi had been abducted 6 days ago. I needed to go there, to visit the scene, to think about my niece, to grieve in private. There were more than 50 acres of exquisitely landscaped woodland gardens adjacent to the Duke University Medical Center, literally miles of alleys. Casanova couldn't have hoped for a better site for his kidnapping. He had been thorough. Perfect, so far. How was that possible? I talked to staff members and also to a few students who had been there the day Naomi disappeared. The picturesque gardens were officially open from early morning until dusk. Naomi had last been seen at around 4 o'clock. Casanova had taken her in broad daylight. I couldn't figure out how he'd done it, not yet. Neither could the Durham police or the FBI. I walked around the woods and gardens for almost 2 hours. I was overwhelmed by the thought that Scucci had been taken right here. A spot called the Terraces was particularly beautiful. Visitors could enter through a wisteria-covered pergola. Lovely wooden stairways led down to an irregular-shaped fish pond with a rock garden stacked directly behind. Visually, the terraces were horizontal bands of rock, accented by stripes of the most beautiful color. Tulips, azaleas, camellias, irises, and peonies were in bloom. I knew instinctively that this was a place that Scucci would love. I knelt near a visually striking patch of bright red and yellow tulips. I was wearing a gray suit with an open-necked white shirt. The ground was soft and stained my trousers, but it didn't matter. I bowed my head low. Finally, I wept for Scucci. Chapter 28. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Kate McTiernan thought that she'd heard something. She was probably imagining it. You could definitely get a little buggy in here. There it was again. The slightest creak in the floorboards. The door opened, and he walked into the room without saying a word. There he was, Casanova. He had on another mask. He looked like some kind of a dark god, slender and athletic. Was that his fantasy image of himself? Physically, he would be considered a hunk at the university, or even as a cadaver in an autopsy room, which was preferable to her. She noted his clothes: tight, faded blue jeans, black cowboy boots edged with soil, no shirt. He was definitely a hard body, proud of his rippling chest. She was trying to remember everything, for the time when she escaped. "I read all your rules," Kate said, trying to act as calm as possible. Her body was shivering, though. "They're very thorough, very clear." "Thank you. No one likes rules, least of all me, but they're necessary sometimes." The mask hid his face, and it held Kate's attention. She couldn't take her eyes away from it. It reminded her of the elaborate decorative masks from Venice. It was hand-painted, ritualistic in its artistic detail, and weirdly beautiful. Was he trying to be seductive, Kate wondered? Was that it? "Why do you wear the mask?" she said. She kept her voice subservient, curious, but not demanding. "As I said in my note, one day you'll go free. You'll be released. It's all in my plan for you. I couldn't bear to see you hurt." "If I'm good. If I obey." "Yes, if you're good." "I won't be that hard, Kate. I like you so much." She wanted to hit him, to go after him. Not yet, she warned herself. Not until you're sure. You'll only get one try at him. He seemed to read her mind. He was very quick, very bright. "No karate," he said, and she sensed that he was smiling behind the mask. "Please remember that, Kate. I've actually seen you perform at your dojo. I've watched you. You're very quick, and you're strong. So am I. I'm no stranger to martial arts." "That wasn't what I was thinking about." Kate frowned and looked up at the ceiling. She rolled back her eyes. She thought it was pretty fair